I couldn't quite figure it out at first because it comes on so slowly you don't really realize what's happening.
Actions became much more dramatic in how she was, her behavior and how she was starting to act.
We didn't quite know what to do with the pieces that we saw that were missing.
She couldn't remember how to pay bills.
Not remembering where she lived.
It was from that point she just went downhill.
And he doesn't remember any of the children.
He was my strength, was my heart and soul.
Hi, I'm Jill Lorentz. I've been working very closely with the University of Colorado Rocky Mountain Alzheimer's Disease Center since 2012. A 7-year-old child said to me one time the most succinct thing I've ever heard. He said, "I think my grandmother has lost her souvenirs." Alzheimer's starts with a loss of learning, and it moves to a loss of speech. It can lead to a loss of being able to dress and groom yourself, to be able to feed yourself, and to be able to perform activities of daily living that are essential to us having quality of life and is vital to our dignity. Symptoms that vary, but very much so, take us back to the fundamental learning, and you're going to see that in the families that you're going to view. But there are millions of people living with this disease, and we need to find a cure. You can be a part of that.
What I'd like to do is tell you a little bit about Diana's story.
Hi, my name is Jean, and my husband is Bill Worley, and he has Alzheimer's.
I'm Bonnie Fisher. My husband Bob is a resident here.
Hi, my name is Sal. I live in Elizabeth, Colorado, and my wife's name is Jan.
I'm Susan Shaw, and my mom is Alberta Cook.
I'm Carl, and my wife is Donna. She's in the Alzheimer's Care Center here. And
I'm Judy, and my mom Claire lives here.
She has been my wife for 35 years. Diana was always very, very healthy, wonderful shape, condition, meticulous eater, and also very beautiful.
Donna was a musician. She loved the flowers. She says, "Carl, I want flowers here and here and here. You plant them, I'll pick them out." And so that was my job. Then her favorite time of the year was our harvest time. She loved to drive the big trucks and help me out on that. And one year, all of a sudden, the books hadn't been done for the whole year. And all of a sudden, that stopped, even though she could function. She was covering up. There's no closeness anymore, because she can't communicate. Just words come out that don't really convey an idea. It's more just what you call it is the word salad. So we were together for 50 years, and it's really hard now not having that. And she's basically gone, and I'm by myself, even though she's here.
I liked her spunkiness, and she was a good-looking lady. We just had a lot in common. We rode horses together. The first horse she bought, she trained to jump. So we bought a home over in Greenwood Village that backed up on the High Line, and she would ride for miles. But that's really what brought on her concussions, what caused her Alzheimer's. They would stop at a jump, and she'd go flying forward. And yes, she wore a helmet, she wore a protective vest, but she had a lot of concussions. And she was still skiing in the winter of 17, 18. And we went back out to ski another hour. And she started falling. I'd ski down there, said, "You okay?" And she said, "No, I'm getting dizzy." I said, "Well, we're done. I think we should take her home." It was from that point she just went downhill. She loved outdoors, and she would wander at night. It was difficult for me to sleep because I didn't know where she was going to be. A lot of fun, be able to share your life with somebody you love.
This is kind, loving, caring husband, even romantic in some ways. We've been married 50 years. It was 50 years last December. He always wrote the sweetest things. He says, "I thank God for bringing us together at the exact right time in our lives when we needed each other to take our lives in a healthy direction." Why he quit talking to me. And I couldn't figure out why. He hasn't known who I am for at least 6 years. It's so hard. It's a long journey. It started showing symptoms in 2008 or 2009, so it's been 10 years. The way this disease has taken so much of Bob away from him, it's done the same to me. I'm just not the person I used to be anymore.
I hadn't noticed it because I just didn't see it. She said, "You know, Mom, it's time for Dad to retire. He is showing signs of dementia." And he never recognized that he was losing his abilities. But he continued to play the piano. He had taken classical piano lessons for most of his life. The other day we were having lunch and he said to me, "Will you marry me?" And I said, "Yes, I will." And then he was telling everyone that all the caretakers that he and I were going to get married. But he still knows me, which I'm very thankful for. So, but I really miss him.
I don't think we were truly aware that she was struggling because she was at home with my dad, and so when she'd say something that was incorrect, he'd tell her the correct answer or give her the correct word. We didn't quite know what to do with the pieces that we saw that were missing. We didn't know what was age-related as opposed to maybe a more significant diagnosis of Alzheimer's. Her cooking became rather unusual when she put a banana on some enchiladas one time. My mom and dad shared a room here at Bellevue because my dad wanted to stay with my mom even though he didn't have Alzheimer's and she did. For almost 2 years before he passed away about 3 weeks ago, we shared that my dad's passing with my mom later the afternoon, and she looked at us and she said, "Oh dear, my husband? Why didn't he tell me?" And then she changed the subject. So that memory stayed with her about 15 seconds. And even though they shared a room and his half of the room is now empty, she doesn't recognize the fact that he's not here, that he's passed. A few days after my dad passed away, we had the birth of our second grandchild, and that's something I can't share with my mother. I can't share past memories with her because she doesn't remember, and I can't share present memories with her now, and that's heartbreaking.
She made Raggedy Ann dolls. She'd see something and make it for the grandkids. She has 6 grandkids, and she just loved doing things for them. All of a sudden the mirror's broken on the side of the car and she didn't know how, and she had a ding in the front fender and she didn't know how. There were a few times when she would go to dinner at Carol's, drive over there, and then never make it home. We had friends that were policemen, and so we'd call them and they'd look for her. Or she just walks around. That's what she does. And sometimes we sit in the chair and just sit, and I put my arm around her. She likes to share the chair with me.
I first noticed memory issues when Diana was about 55 years old, which has been around 15 years ago now. In the beginning, it wasn't that noticeable. She was always in absolute denial, refused to accept that she had a problem. Her actions became much more dramatic in how she was, her behavior and how she was starting to act. Time progressed, it became even worse, almost to a point to where actually we did have to go and start seeking a resolution to the issue because the problems in the family were getting bigger and bigger. The solution really was drugs, a mixture of drugs that helped control the behavior that she had. As time went on, she started losing functionality. Things like inability to drive, not remembering where she lived, and actually started losing bodily functions, the ability to control bodily functions. She basically has become totally void of any kind of pleasures. She also has lost her ability to speak. She tries, but it's unintelligible. She really doesn't recognize anyone anymore, even Catherine. She recognizes me only by my voice. The highlight of my day is when I come in and sit down beside her and start to talk and see that look on her face when she recognizes who it is. We had a wonderful life. The effect that it has on the loved one is very difficult to explain and actually talk about.
Everybody is different. There's no set course for this disease.
But we've all lost a loved one, in a way. I'm just not the person I used to be anymore. I feel like my life is on hold.
I would go home very depressed, a lot of times cry all the way home.
You know, we don't have any choices in life sometimes, and that's one that we don't have.
I'd like to thank all of you for coming together tonight for this greater cause. As we know, the disease continues, it doesn't stop. It's just one of those things that you have to try to guess a lot about, do the right thing, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other, taking it day by day, and doing what you think you need to do. We don't know how much longer we have. No one knows, no one can tell you. We need something to relieve the suffering and the heartache that everyone goes through that has to deal with it.